Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Today is the 4th of September 2025. The Coalition of the Willing plus Zelensky held a meeting in Paris. Actually. It's over. And I have all the details you need to know about that. Not that you need to know, I decide what you need to know. Everything that the Western media allowed us to know, including the Russians. So, what's going on here? Zelensky showed up, obviously, to this organized summit, the Coalition of the Willing in Paris today. And there were 7 countries, 7 leaders of countries. I made a video earlier today that they met in Paris, in Élysée Palace in France, okay? And some 20 some more were they attended virtually, like hello, Mary Lou, and so on. After they had the little garbage, they made some decisions. Witkoff, the American Middle East envoy, Trump's Middle East envoy, I have to fix this shit here, to Ukraine, showed up and stayed 20 minutes into the meeting. And after 20 minutes, he left. And these guys were like, oh, now what? Nothing. So that's what happened. And then Donald Trump called them and had a little conversation with the Europeans. And he slapped them around, and it was not all rosy. Now, I have a lot of details here. I have the Russians' 3 ultimatums. I have Zelensky's statements. I have what the Russians report about it and the Westerners. Countries are ready to send troops to Ukraine. Like this, about 20 of them. The French and the Brits are ready to send long-range missiles to strike inside Russia. And Trump is like backing off from countries who border Russia militarily. I will show you. All right, let's start with the first topic. This comes from the Russians. Why did I pick the Russians? Then we're going to go to the other baboons, okay? So this is the beginning of Russia Today. Zelensky and Ukraine's European backers talk to Trump. Live updates. Let's refresh it so we make sure we don't lose anything. Now, the leaders of the so-called Coalition of the Willing have met at a summit in Paris. All right. And we go here, paka. Several European nations, including France and the UK, have voiced their readiness to deploy peacekeepers in Ukraine, while Germany recently said it has no such plans. All right. So we're going to go to the beginning. I'm going to go down here. These are the baboons. And they had a conversation with, I was about to say Putin, with Trump afterwards. So let's go with the beginning right here. Trump told CBS News on Wednesday that he remains committed to pursuing a Russia-Ukraine peace agreement, despite uncertainty over prospect of face-to-face talks. He characterized his position as both realistic and optimistic, stating, something is going to happen, but they, Putin and Zelensky, are not ready yet. But something is going to happen. We are going to get it done. All right, so this spoke. And we have here, according to French President Emmanuel Macron, 26 member countries of the Coalition of the Willing have expressed their readiness to send troops to Ukraine, except Poland. And I will tell you what Mr. Duda, the former president of Poland, said about Zelensky. And that is something we said many times before. Zelensky wants to see NATO fighting Russia. Why? World War III, and they come in and they reconstruct. You know who they are? Yeah, of course. All right, let's read further. Zelensky stated that the framework for security, he called for the concrete steps, not important. Finland president, we don't care about the Finnish guys. Right there, we go further. On his Telegram channel, Zelensky said that the talks focus on new sanctions and also secondary sanctions. You got it? Strong Ukrainian army and 26 countries have agreed to provide such commitments, with US pledging long-term support. France, the UK, co-chairs of the Coalition of the Willing, are committed to sending personnel. I will tell you how much they want to send. All right. Belgium, Lithuania, and Estonia have signaled a readiness to participate. Wow. You know how big these countries are, my friends? Do you know how big these countries are? Let me show you. All right. So we have Belgium right there. In comparison, take Germany. This is Germany. That's Belgium over there. And it was Estonia right there. 1.3 million people, 1.3. And the other one, what was the other one? Lithuania, I think it's 2.8 million people. Lithuania. So this and this Belgium, they are ready, man, to send troops right there. And the Russians are shaking in their quakers as we speak. All right. Sweden also remains undecided. Latvian President Edgar Pakakap said the choice will depend on broader security guarantees. Oh, so he's just in between. Hungary has flatly rejected any troop deployment or military support, while Poland has said its forces will not be sent to Ukraine, focusing instead on NATO's eastern flank and logistical aid. Germany has ruled out sending troops. Right? This is what happens. No camp. And then we have, according to Financial Times, the US will phase out security aid for European armies on Russia's border. You understand what it is? So that means these guys is not gonna send anything to the Eastern Europe. Pentagon bordering Russia. Pentagon halts military support programs for European countries bordering Russia. I will show you which ones. Will curtail hundreds of millions of dollars in security support programs for European countries bordering Russia, the Financial Times reported. Pentagon officials informed European diplomats last week that the United States would no longer fund programs to train and arm troops in Eastern European countries bordering Russia. So what are those baboons? Let me show you. So, what borders Russia? As of now, we have Finland right here. We have Norway right here. Then we have Estonia right here. We have Latvia right here. We have Lithuania right here, if you consider this being Kaliningrad, Russia, okay? Then Poland also borders right there, right? And who else? Now, Romania doesn't border anything yet. Bulgaria doesn't border. So these are the countries that seem to border Russia right there. All right, let's move back to the Russians here. Without the all right, what's that? Paka Paka, Puku Puka, White House. No, we go here. Without the participation of the U.S., all the talk of the coalition of the willing will remain words on paper, says Sergei Polatev. I think that's correct. Next, we're gonna go back here to the right here. This is what they got so far. According to Bild. Bild is a German tabloid. Trump clashed. This is 7:10 GMT or 19:10 GMT. Trump clashed with European leaders in a heated phone call on Thursday, accusing them of buying Russian oil. Zelensky said, no, it was only Slovakia and Hungary, nobody else. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen reportedly contended that imports had been massively reduced since the conflict escalated, while European officials stressed that only Hungary and Slovakia were still importing directly. Does it matter if it's directly or indirectly? Trump envoy Steve Witkoff reportedly went further, alleging that Europe was buying Russian oil through India, and asked the Indians about that. Bild reports that when the conversation turned to sanctions, the European proposed sending representatives to Washington within 48 hours to form a joint working group, but it remains unclear whether Trump agrees. And European officials told Bild they do not expect him to follow through on sanctions despite his repeated threats. So this is so far from the Russians. This is updates. The conversation is over. Let's go to the Zelensky Stein. Let's see what he says, because we can trust him. I mean, he's the manufacturer of big lies by definition. So, Ukrinform. Zelensky on call with Trump. Key to peace is depriving Russia military machine of resources. So, we need to stop them selling their oil and gas. Therefore, we're going to win, basically. And then we're going to become our servants. Who's our? Not you and yours and mine. Participants in the coalition of the willing meeting in Paris held talk with the US President Donald Trump, during which they discussed pressure on Russia, in particular economic measures, excuse me, that would deprive the Russian military machine of resources. And what did they see here? They're going to talk about Hungary and Slovakia, according to Zelensky. Today we spoke to President Trump. We thank him for his support. He learned a lesson. He has to fondle his balls from now on every time he speaks with him. It was a long, detailed conversation about how to push the situation towards peace. We discussed various options. The most important thing is pressure, using strong measures, including economic ones, to force an end to the war. The key to peace is depriving the Russian war machine of money and resources. Question for Mr. Zelensky Stein. Haven't you watched Beijing parade? Haven't you watched what was going in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting in China? Have you watched that? Did you understand that Putin, Russia, is in a different coalition? Do you understand that? North Korea is ready to support Russia until the end. China knows that if Russia falls, they're done. And next, India, without these guys, is going to be a vassal state to the United States of America. Are you crazy? So when they say we have to put pressure on Russia, Russia has so much outside of you, the 38 or 45 European nations, plus the baboons in East Asia, Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, and Japan, and Palau, and Zapalau, and all those other, Papua New Guinea, and so on. All right, and Israel, who stays there, says, well, I hope you guys get at it again, and we're going to come and help you reconstruct with our banks, because we're the good people, man, and then you're going to work for us. The Americans are already doing that, so don't worry. We're going to have the Europeans. Oh, they're working already? Yes, they are. All right, let's go to the next one. This comes from the Ukrainians now. New Voice of Ukraine. Coalition of the Willing meeting wraps in Paris as Witkoff attends only briefly. He said, you know what, he's like a prima donna. You see this picture? In these pictures, I see at least 3 Jews. Is there anything wrong with that? That's a fact. I can tell you this is the one, this is Yermak, and this is Witkoff. And you have 2 fuck-ups right here. This is the Finnish semi, you know what I mean? And this is the guy who takes us in the butt from his spouse. So here it is. These are the three. Isn't that representative? And you have this baboon right here and this baboon right here. Anyway, and that, I think that's the French, could be the French foreign minister who's an infantile, but nevertheless. Let's move on. Steve Witkoff, US President Donald Trump's envoy, left the Coalition of the Willing Summit on Security Guarantees for Ukraine just 20 minutes after it began. You know what happens in 20 minutes? My name is Tom Jones. My name is Mike. How have you been? How is your family? Goodbye. Time to go. See you. Pack. What? That's what it is in 20 minutes. Do you think that anything meaningful was exchanged in 20 minutes? Do you think these guys were like efficient? Have you ever been in a this kind of meetings? I haven't been, but I heard about them. I read their transcripts. They don't start, okay, now let's be efficient. No, what's up? How are you? Click, 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 click. Pa, pa, pa. This is what's going on for the first hour. I'm just exaggerating. All right, this according to Radio Liberty. You can believe them. Got it? According to Radio Liberty, Witkoff was expected to return to the summit later in the day to participate in a phone call with Trump scheduled for approximately 1500 Kiev time. All right, got it? And then Witkoff met with the president, Andrei Yermak. So on September 4th, reports said Witkoff, Jewish, met with the head of president to the Ukraine's president of office, Andrei Yermak, Jewish, and National Security Defense Secretary Umerov, Tatar. None of these are Ukrainians if you look over there. And then he met with, right here, with another Jewish guy, Zelensky, Witkoff. So what the is going on here? Nothing, it's just a coincidence. All right, let's move on. All right, I told you about the Pentagon stopping funding those imbeciles in Eastern Europe. I don't know exactly why. Is it an understanding with Putin, or is it just because he tries to divert the funding and the weapons to somewhere else? Maybe, I don't know, against Iran, helping our ally in the Middle East. All right, let's go to Ukrinform. Ukrinform tells us that Coalition of the Willing, 26 countries pledged troops to reassure Ukraine post-war. Have you not understood yet that Russia said that is unacceptable? They said it today again. Zakharova said it. I made a video on that. These guys are still going with that one. Why? They don't want peace. Neither did the other guys. Why? They can't agree to the conditions, to the terms. Why? The things are clear. I want your shit, you want my shit. How in the hell are we going to do it? Can we borrow it? It doesn't work that way. All right, let's move on. 26 countries participating in the coalition of the willing are ready to be present on land, at sea, or in the air to guarantee Ukraine's security. And who guarantees Russia's security? I would like to know. Who guarantees Russia's security? Or is that was the main point when the Russians wanted to talk to these baboons in 2021. Remember, they looked for them and said, hey guys, NATO, United States of America, we need some guarantees that your presence in Ukraine will not threaten our existence. And the guys' answer was, we're not going to guarantee you that because that's exactly why we are over there, to you up. And the Russians said, we know, but at least let's talk. We're not going to talk to you. What are we going to do about it? And the Russians said, we're going to invade. Thank you very much. Hey guys, we're going to have a kill here. The financial branch, or the profiteers, the international financial system, profiteers. Then you have the military-industrial complex, profiteering, and then you have the energy sector profiteering with the reconstruction and building weapons. These guys are like, oh, thank you very much, Russia. Why? We got the imbeciles to say we're not going to talk to you. Our imbeciles, by the way. So you got it. So they are ready, man. There's 26 countries have committed to deploy troops in Ukraine as a force of assurance or to be present on land. Paka, 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 paka. Good job. Good job. Next one. This is just to reiterate the previous article. Macron, 26 countries willing to either send troops to Ukraine or provide certain assets. Look at these guys. My God. Okay. We got it already. What's going on here? Next one. European contingent in Ukraine could number 30,000 troops. Do you remember why? Do you remember why the Russians entered Ukraine for? You know why? One of the big reasons was NATO presence. And this guy said, we're going to bring NATO in Ukraine to make sure the peace stands. But that was the main point, the root cause, as they call it, why we entered. How do you think that we're going to accept that? They don't want to accept that. That's exactly how it was, how the Poles negotiated with the Germans before September 1st, 1939, when the Germans said, that's it, man, let's go in. That's what it was. They negotiated in bad faith. Why? Because the Brits again and the French again told the Polish government, you don't have to do anything. If Germany attacks you, we're gonna be with you. So you can disagree with the Danzig corridor, you can disagree with anything. Just show up, pretend you meet them, and just tag them along forever. And the Germans said, that's it, man, that's it. And then, oh my God, they attacked us. And immediately the Brits were, pook, we declare war on Germany. Who, mission accomplished. Thank you very much. Because why? Anyway, so here they are. We got this right with 26 countries. Next. Ukraińska Prawda. Polish Prime Minister reiterates that Poland will not send troops to Ukraine, saying they have different role. Well, he knows something we don't. No, I think the point is he knows that if he, and let me show you this map, this is clearer. If he, right here, this is Poland, received the orders from the Americans to enter here to protect the Polish population, he will do it. But probably they received an order from the Americans, stand down. I know the Poles will not like my assessment of that. But you have to agree that you are US's badge, not the European badge. You want to suck but you want to be very important. You're like a Trojan horse in the European Union. That's what you are. American Trojan horse. That's what it is. But anyway, that's good. That's good. Oh, you talk about Romania? Those are worse than you. The Romanians have no voice. They play no roles. At least you guys show some balls. At least kind of independence. You play with the big dogs. The Romanians are just, how should I put it? I don't even know. Worse. Okay, just in case that I'm getting it nice with the Romanians because I have something to do with them. No, even worse. Romanians are. Okay, let's move on. So he said no troops over there. Why? And then we find out what the former Polish president Duda has to say. Why didn't you say this while you were the president of Poland, baby doll? Zelensky's dream is NATO-Russia war. 4th of September. Zelensky's dream is NATO-Russia war. But Why Zelensky? Why do you think Zelensky personally has anything to do with the Russians? He's Jewish. Or the Jews have a problem with the Russians? Do they have a problem with Putin? Berezovsky had a problem with Putin and others? No? Okay. Nevertheless, why would this guy want these guys fight? Remember, NATO is mainly Europeans, fighting Europeans again. Why? Why Zelensky wants to see this? In the name of the Ukrainians, he's going to be okay. He's going to go to New York. That's where he's going to go. London, and if London gets bombarded, he's going to go to New York. He's safe. Don't worry about it. Why would he want that? I said it so many times. This is their goal. Why? Putin doesn't follow orders. He's not part of the club, and he doesn't follow orders. Therefore, the big guys in charge of all of us have to take care of this maverick. Let's see what this guy said. Andrei Duda has said the Ukrainian leader, he's Ukrainian. Shut your pie hole, Russia Today. Call him as he is, man. Maybe as Zakharova called him today, Kiev's ring leader. Cock ring? A ring leader. That's what it is, man. Ring leader. That Zakharova nailed that. You know, that's what he is. A ring leader. But they call him president, Ukrainian leader. Pressured him to blame Moscow for Kiev's errant missile detonating in Poland. Yeah, and then they lied, when they killed those Polish guys. Vladimir Zelensky's quote-unquote dream is to draw NATO directly into the conflict with Russia on Ukraine's behalf. I don't think it's Ukraine's behalf. I think it's much further up than Ukraine. Former Polish President Andrzej Duda said on Tuesday. Speaking in an interview with journalist Bogdan Rymanowski, Duda recalled an incident in November 2022 when a Ukrainian air defense missile struck near Polish border village, killing one person. Zelensky immediately blamed, I think there were two persons, wasn't that? With the peasants on that tractor? Blamed Russia and urged Warsaw to invoke NATO's collective defense clause. Duda said the Ukrainian leader pressured him to publicly declare the weapon Russian in origin, which he refused to do. And I'm quoting, from the very beginning, they've been trying to drag everyone into war. That's obvious. End quote, Duda said. And I'm quoting again, any leader of a nation in a situation like Ukraine's would want the entire of NATO to fight on its side. Why? I thought you're independent. You fight on your own. You're tough, no? Having NATO support for the army, NATO tanks and soldiers fighting side by side against Russia, that's a dream in such circumstances, he added, stressing that Poland, being a NATO state, could never have agreed to that. Well, if the Americans would have told them, do it, they would have said, yes. How I know that? Let me bring you my crystal ball. That's for my mouth, okay? Because my mouth vomits every day and takes a shit. Anyway, let's move on. And the last topic, I'm going to show you Russia's 3 ultimatums, or 3 things that are not negotiable. You already know about them. I told you very, many occasions about them. According to the new voice of Ukraine, here it is. Russia outlines 3 ultimatums to Ukraine. Clearly, Ukraine must eliminate the so-called root causes of the conflict, NATO, in order to achieve peace. Mikhail Galuzin, Russia's deputy foreign minister, claimed in an interview with New Regions of Russia propaganda media. He alleged that there has been a positive dynamic since Alaska, but only under the condition of. So here it is. Putin expressed willingness to work on providing security guarantees for Ukraine, but only under the condition of that Ukraine remains non-nuclear, neutral, that means no NATO, and outside of any military alliance. And these guys cannot accept that. However, Galuzin complained that the Ukrainian government continues to reject the idea of addressing what Russia calls the fundamental causes of the war. Without this, he added, the rest of the agreements cannot be implemented. That is, without the root causes, you can't solve the problem. Clear? It's like, as I always use this example. You have a water pipe broken in your house, and the water keeps coming. And these guys, we can solve it. You know how we're going to solve it? We're going to put, some clothes over it, and it's still going to drip. And then we're going to bring a squeegee, going to bring some towels, going to put up buckets. But the water is going to keep coming in. The war is going to be going. But we just fix it somehow like that. But it's never going to be fixed. instead of going to the root cause, which is water comes inside the house. So you go click, 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 quick, quick, close the freaking faucet or however it's called, and no more water coming from your wherever you get your water from in your house. And then when it's gone glip, 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 nothing in your house, then you repair the pipe and then you go back and start over the water. That's the root cause, or not. That's the root cause, the water coming in. That's the one. This guy's the same. NATO is the root cause. And they all know it. But they pretend they don't. That's not it. It's a given. Well, you're going to have war. Thank you very much for being with me again today. And some people, some interests make a ton of money because of that. Why would they want to stop? Especially when they control these imbecile politicians in the West. There's no way why they want to. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.